We have a very good experience here with RPA. We started using that 4 or 5 years ago. We started using. We probably have about 350 bots running on daily basis.
I've seen too many large-scale technology deployment has failed miserably because we haven't aligned the process or haven't understood the whole end-to-end process.
This kind of challenge because we're in the commodity business, the margins are historically very low.
If you look at from a Tesco, we are a 4% margin business, which means that you have to be watertight on your CapEx spend. It's really important.
Welcome to GBS Masterminds Podcast Season 3. CIOs are from Mars, GBS leaders are from Venus. Today we have two amazing guests at CIO and GBS. I'm going to ask Rogério to introduce himself first.
Good morning. My name is Rogério Peres. I'm originally from Brazil. I lead the IT team here at JBS USA. We are based here in Greeley, Colorado. Our company, we do beef, pork, chicken, everything you like to eat. We have plant-based products as well. And, very nice to meet you and very nice to be with you guys here.
Hi, I'm Sumit Mitra. I'm the CEO of Tesco Business Solutions. We manage, from a Tesco perspective, Tesco Retail, Tesco Wholesale, Tesco Bank, Tesco Mobile. So we are almost seen as the horizontal organization supporting all the businesses across Tesco Group.
Sumit, this question is for you, being a GBS leader. There is a perception out there that the business teams or the GBS office is the office of the fairy tale. Specifically, what that means is you would desire a lot of latest and greatest technology, maybe get a bunch of nice demos from vendors, and you expect the CIO office to sign off. What are your thoughts on this? Is this perception true?
Well, I'm going to categorically say absolutely not. I think it all depends on how you're connected to the organization. In some ways, I criticize GBSs about knowing the content, but not getting enough of the context of the business. So if you're a GBS that has the business context, i.e. understand the strategic drivers of the business, understanding the 3-year plan of the business, then you're not going to create a fairy tale, are you? You're going to create something which is real, that delivers efficiency and connects to the purpose, values, and the strategic drivers of the business. I think that's the key for me. I'll give you an example. In Tesco, the way we do it, we have a team called the Applied Research. They don't work in isolation, actually. They work very closely with our finance team as well as our tech team to make sure that we get the right SIDCon funding to test and learn. Because there are many technologies out there that could help us. So once we do the test and learn and we feel it works, we then extrapolate into a business case which has the right return on investment, and then we take it to the CTO, CIO to make sure we get the large-scale transformation support that we need.
All right, Rogério, since you're a CIO, there is a perception out there by business leaders that the CIO is the office of the no. Is this perception true? They feel like when they go to the CIO's office, they're always said, no, we can't do this, or keep it to the core ERP. Please clear the perception.
So, I think there is always things in both sides, right? Yes, we can do these things. No, the main point about that I struggle a lot is about strategy. Strategy for like major companies, right? You don't ask, SAP. Let's build an operation system now. What if we do these other things here that you're a core? Let's build a browser, things like that. You have to stay with your core. And whenever you do this, you're in the right direction. And sometimes people ask things besides that, and you have defined your strategy already, and you cannot keep changing things all the time, right? Yeah, can we use a different CRM solution? Why, right? So the answer should be no, because we have one already. We have defined our strategy, for example. I think that's a lot of those things there that people confuse about, can we change the direction we're going all the time? No, that doesn't make sense. Otherwise, there are always opportunities to improve and be more proactive sometimes.
Got it. Makes sense. So maybe a follow-up question for you. This is specific to GBS, Global Business Services, Shared Services, is happening a lot, as you know, multi-function, multi-location. Do you think they should have more control in IT or tech decision making. Just curious, your thoughts on that, as well as how do you do it at JBS?
So JBS is a little bit unique from most shared services company. They use a shared service area. We have some areas they are centralized. For example, everything around the ERP, core ERP is centralized here in US for pretty much all countries. On the other hand, we have a separate IT team in each other country, so they're managing, dealing with other things like account services in different teams, etc. I think the main goal should always look at the standardization and make sure we have core and standard process across the globe. And that's why we fight a lot about changing. So have we decided, for example, to do a solution on collections as an example, right? So we're not going to change that. And we want every single country to respect that decision, and we'll make the decision together.
Sumit, do you think GBS should have more control in IT tech decision making? Of course, you're on the hook for delivering value, outcomes. That's the sole reason of why GBS exists, but you're kind of also constrained by IT. So I'm just curious, what kind of control and what kind of collaboration should be there so that you can control your destiny?
Yeah, I think there are two aspects of it. First of all, collaboration is absolutely critical in terms of how do you partner with technology and with each other. Now, I see technology execution in two different parts. One is about the stuff that technology does to improve customer experience, innovation, things like, if I give an example, in Tesco, we came up with something called Whoosh, which is about 30-minute delivery of products and shopping into our customer. The work we do around building platforms in terms of our high-value customers through our club card. So these are big, critical things that drives hundreds of millions of benefit for the business. And that always takes priority. Then there is the second element, which is about the infrastructure where GBS sits on. And there are a number of things that you need to do to ensure you drive a very efficient, value-adding GBS. And that can only happen through understanding the prioritization between the bigger tech organization versus your GBS organization. And how do you ensure that you are in that priority list day one? And that comes from a very clear planning, having a 2-year, 3-year transformation strategy in terms of how do you execute your efficiencies and how do you improve your customer experience or supplier experience or colleague experience. And then connect those with your CIO and CTO organization to understand how do you fit into the priority list.
So I'm going to switch gears a bit and ask you more of a tech question. RP has gone through like the classic Gartner hype cycle. If you rewind like 4 or 5 years back, everything can be automated, everybody can have bots. But I have personally heard from some of our own clients, and a lot of CFOs and CIOs and others are saying that the RPA is very brittle. It's a short-term band-aid to a process, but really it cannot really automate an end-to-end process. But I wanted to get your thoughts. Has it been similar experience at JBS? How are you handling this?
We have a very good experience here with RPA. We started using that 4 or 5 years ago. We probably have about 350 bots running on daily basis. We are here, we have like a center of excellence, like we talk about shared service. So our team here is primarily building a few bots, but also training people in each business unit. If you're going to invest like, I don't know, 30 hours to build a bot that's going to save 15 minutes a person, maybe it doesn't make sense. Not necessarily is the best solution there. But on the other hand, in 50% of the cases, I think I agree with what you said. It is more like because there's no integration and we haven't built that integration. So in many cases, there are other ways you can deliver that, where we have a few bots here that capture data from, for example, like there are some public websites or people that don't have an API or something like it. We can connect our system. That's a very helpful solution as well. So I would say that's kind of half and half. In some cases, yes, there's opportunities we should integrate the applications more instead of, having a kind of workaround with some bots that we have.
Sumit, for you, what has been your own experience at Tesco? What is your recommendation for somebody who's embarking on a RPA automation journey?
Excellent. So let me start off by saying that if technology is the bullet train that you're going to sit on to take you to sort of the new destination that you're going after. For your bullet train to run, you need two tracks. And to me, the two tracks, track number one is the culture of the organization. Have you got the right culture that is change ready to adopt to new technology, the business change? Because technology can be as good as it gets, but if the business isn't ready, if you're not change ready, you can't deploy the technology. And the second thing for me is the process, because sometimes I've seen too many large scale technology deployment has failed miserably because we haven't aligned the process or haven't understood the whole end-to-end process. And understanding that end-to-end process is really important. So those are the two kind of basic foundations. And in Tesco, we did exactly the same. We worked on the culture. Parallelly, we built something called the service model framework, where we said, instead of 700 odd processes in the business, let's shrink it to 10 key processes, and then really map those processes and understand what the ideal process would look like. And then once you've done that, you have almost an open slate to bring in the right technology to execute to drive the right business outcome. So if I give you an example on RPA, so we mapped those processes, understood those processes, and then we worked very closely with technology to understand where the big scale technology transformation is going to happen. And then anything that is not happening within the next 2 years, we said, okay, RPA would be an answer to go in and automate anything that is task-based, rule-based, mundane, and put robotics on it. And anything that is coming between the next 12 to 15 months, let's leave RPA aside and let the mass scale transformation happen. So over the last 5 years, we've deployed over 400 bots. And that's taken out almost 800 colleague worth of efforts, which is fantastic. But as we drive and execute more and more modern technology and systems, we remove those bots. But one advice I would always give is make sure that the availability of bots is there, because when you take out a number of colleagues from the business, you're very much dependent on those point automation.
The next question is around budgets for transformation or IT projects. When you see more traditional companies like JBS and others, a lot of effort is always going on the SAP upgrade. Like it seems like perennially I can see since you're a customer of ours, you're going through a massive S4 upgrade. I can see the JBS S4 ward behind you as the picture. So what are your thoughts on that? Like, yes, you should do SAP, but then is it also not enabling the company to do other optimization in the short term?
That's a very interesting question. We have done, and of course, the majority of our investment in the last couple of years has been directly to S4 implementation here. So it's a multi-year, like 6 years project here, and it's gonna, use a lot of investment for us to get there. On the other hand, it's always critical to think how you're not, falling behind in other areas there. So in our case, it's kind of challenge because we're in the commodity business, the margins are historically very low, and this year probably one of those low points that limit our ability to keep investing in some other things. So, but one thing is critical about that, Sasha, is related to the strategy. Like I said, as long as you have a good strategy and you have defined that very well, you're still going the right direction there. I think those are the main point. Is really invest well in defining clearly where you want to go, where you want to be, and with the help of the business, right? The main point also is, right, so when you talk about this transformation, IT, in my point of view, right, related to projects about that should not necessarily be the driver of that. It has to be the business. Who are the key sponsors for that? Without that, you are not going to move forward. And the first thing you're going to do is really cancel those projects whenever we have a situation like I mentioned, some restrictions from capital there. So that's why it's very important you are well aligned with the strategy there. And the other thing we do a lot about this, for example, we have several projects we start investing using AI, machine learning in very interesting projects. It will take me a few hours here to explain some of them, but make sure there's a payback, because especially that in our case in operations, when we talk about our plants, that becomes really challenging to replicate because it's not the same. The environments are different. There are the external factors that can influence that.
Sumit, at Tesco, how do you manage budgets? How do you make sure that you're trying to do some experimentation, some big transformation, some people are not being left out? Like, how do you drive the whole budget approval process?
Sure. I mean, if you look at from a Tesco, we are a 4% margin business, which means that you have to be watertight on your CapEx spend. It's really important. So we have X million of budget overall in terms of CapEx that we've committed to the city in terms of, and our investors in terms of how much we're going to spend year on year. So here the long-term planning is very important. This is what I said earlier on, is understanding your transformation plan. It cannot be random. It has to be based on a long-term transformation plan, and which is based on some of the seed con funding that you've used to understand what technology you're going to bring in your transformation plan. And then really have a solid business case. And business case is not always just financial and payback. It's around, does it really impact our customers and therefore driving incremental revenue growth? Does this improve cash for the business? But also, does it improve colleague experience? And then you prioritize to say, okay, what's important for the business if you understand the strategic drivers of business? And then take it to your CFO, group CFO, and say, look, this is the transformation plan. This is the cost I'm going to take out of the business. And here are 4 or 5 softer benefits that we can measure and take into account while we're doing it. And then you almost phase out the requirement of CapEx over a 3-year period to say, this is when sometimes we over ask for things, I think, which is difficult, then you lose credibility. So what's important is to be real and then maybe increase your CapEx ask over a period rather than having a very heavy CapEx ask in the first year. You got to prove something, make sure it works, and then you build your credibility with the business. And that's how you kind of drive long-term vision for your organization.
Got it. So maybe a follow-up to that from a funding standpoint, almost all IT projects require some type of business case ROI. Some are like hard ROI, some could be soft. How does a business case scrutiny happen at Tesco? How do you, after the fact, when say IT project kicks off, keep everybody honest? Do you have any recommendations?
Yeah, we are very, very clear on this. We need to have as a retailer, as a 4% margin business, as I said, you need to have the right governance and control in terms of how you're spending your CapEx. Now, in GBS, what we do is my CFO within the business is accountable for implementation reviews. So, for example, we will have a steer call. We have agreed a business case, which gives the X amount of return. Now, yes, there is a hesitance in terms of what that return could be. But the way I look at it is if you're confident that a technology will deliver an outcome, then there shouldn't be any hesitation in terms of stating a range of benefit. I think sometimes we go after a specific number. I am quite happy with the range in terms of this is the range of benefit that it would deliver. And then my CFO, depending on the complexity of the project, monthly or bi-monthly or quarterly, he will sit and own the transformation journey to make sure that the right milestones are achieved, and then the third lot of cash will be released to make sure so that if we fail something, we fail fast and then we close it. So a constant monitoring and governance is really important to have that financial discipline in the business.
So what is the culture at JBS for that?
Yeah, we have a lot of projects that are mandatory, right? So, for example, recently, California and Massachusetts, they changed the regulation. We have to do some change how we deliver pork meat in those states there. And it is what it is. Either you do that and change your process there in order to provide the information they want, or you don't sell there. It's as simple as this. So again, you're going to do that. There's legal requirements and things like that you have to do regardless. And there's risk. Projects like a little bit of, a big part of the S4 project for us was, of course, a transformation. So we know the technology and the support is going to fall behind. It's several years project, so we had to start sooner than later. And the same thing was a big part of that as well. So again, we know there's a lot of things that we can't fall behind. When you talk about really payback is 100% on the business side. They have to help us. They have to understand what's the investment they're going to make is their capital, not our capital. So that's how we do this. So to make sure there's a commitment from their side, in order to really validate that project makes sense.
Got it. Awesome. What is your one ask from a business leader? Could be CFO or a GBS leader, kind of like your pet peeve, something that you wish they did differently.
It's a tricky question.
I'm sure you have a lot, but I'm curious the top one.
Yeah, but again, I think the main thing is really, and it's a little bit about our culture here, is related to people, right? So when we see the values of the company, right? To talk about simplicity, so everyone here has a similar style, and if you meet our CEO or our CFO, around you won't think this is the CEO of the company, even the global CEO of the company. They're very common people, right? So one thing we like about that a lot, and how the people they're really understanding here. So the leaders of our business units and our company in general, they're very close to everything that's going on. They're close to the people, so they know people. They know our team here as well. So one thing that I really appreciate is how much they are engaged and know the people and know the projects that they are doing with them. So the more they do this, is always beneficial. You have no idea. I'm gonna tell you this because it was really funny. I have done, and I do every single interview here, Sashi, for every single employee in my team here, in the IT team here. It's not the first or the second, but several times people come to me after the interview or after they are hired and say, Rogério, you're the first CIO I ever met. People are surprised that we are dedicated, but come on, guys, this is the most important thing. What are you talking about? If I make sure that everyone that joins our team is like we expect, and they're very, sometimes very proud to be able to meet our CIO, their CIO, the CFO, the CEO of the company, which is, very approachable there. I think the main thing for us is really make sure that this exists, right? We are in the same team. We are doing the same thing. We want the same goals, different roles, but our goals are the same regardless of where we are. I think that's a very strong thing, and I hope so. Being specific about your question, that our leaders always keep this attitude about caring about people, being close to the people, because that's what makes the difference.
Got it. It's almost like it seems like a very humble, down-to-earth culture at JBS. Sumit, you've been a very seasoned GBS leader. You work with probably a lot of IT counterpart leaders, CIOs and head of ITs and so forth. What is your biggest pet peeve with a CIO? If you had to give like a good advice as a business exec, what would that be?
My advice to CTOs is sometimes we go after big prioritization, things that will deliver millions, which was a multi-year project. But there is a big tail. If you add those tail together, it delivers quite a chunky benefit. Sometimes we don't see the tail enough. We go after the really exciting, chunky new technology that will deliver very large benefit over a multi-year period. So my advice would be to, take time to understand the business, take time to spend time with the GBS organization to really understand what they're trying to drive. And their advice is obviously really invaluable. So how do you create that partnership so that, it's a win-win for technology as well as GBS?
That's very good advice. And I see that a lot in today's situation, right? Like every IT office is embarked on the S4 HANA journey or the Oracle Cloud journey, and all the money and focus is that. And then that is like sometimes a 3 to 7 year journey, and everything else takes a step back. So what you're saying is do that, but a lot can happen for the business in 5 to 7 years. So also look at what else is going on in the business.
Absolutely.
Awesome. We know how busy you are. Thank you so much for taking time and being a guest on our podcast.
Thank you. Pleasure, Shashi. Pleasure to see you again.
No, it was my pleasure. Thank you for the opportunity. Very nice to meet you as well, Sasha.